What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 106 of the RUDIS podcast, brought to you as always by us. Matt, what did you guys have a crazy week? Because we had Black Friday, so I'm sure you guys had a crazy week, right?
Oh, it's been insane all the way from Thanksgiving through today and hopefully through Christmas and beyond. So yeah, good stuff, fun stuff.
There we go.
Selling a lot of stuff. So
all right, let's talk about the inevitable. And before all you guys try to bag on me, Matt, I would like to. I looked back, episode 102 of the T. Rowan Funky Show, back when that was in existence. I predicted Spencer Lee would lead the resurrection of the Iowa Hawkeyes. Last April, I predicted the Iowa Hawkeyes would win the 2020 NCAA championship. So before you guys call me an Iowa hater, which, it's not all that unfair, I did predict these things happening. They look good last night, huh, Matt?
They didn't look good. I mean, should we just end the season right here?
You said they didn't look good. They look great.
They look great. Yeah, they looked absolutely
against
phenomenal.
The Wisconsin Badgers, who obviously I'm partial to. They looked really good. Really, really. I had multiple people text me who also probably didn't like Iowa. Said the same exact thing. Like, they're different than they've usually been. They're not that same team that just pushes. They attack. They have really good wrestlers. I mean, I think a lot of it's because they stole so many guys in Pennsylvania, obviously. But, man, they look good. Up and down their lineup last night, overall, just looked really – I mean, Wisconsin has a really good team. They're ranked number 7 in the country. And Iowa just looked really good everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I know on paper there's a lot of exciting things to talk about, and it didn't necessarily materialize, but I think that's a testament to Iowa and the way they came out, were ready to perform, as opposed to – is Wisconsin, are we overhyping Wisconsin right now? I don't think that's the case. I think they're really, really good.
Yeah, I agree. And it wasn't like, I mean, obviously there was a handful of close matches, right? I mean, Gross DeSanto, I guess, wasn't all that close, but Moran was 3-2. Lugo Martin was 5-3. Wick Marinelli was the last second takedown. Cassiope Hilgers 3-2. Watkins Warner was 3-2 till right at the end there. So there were a lot of those matches that were really, really competitive, but Iowa won all of them. And unfortunately, I would probably say Iowa was more aggressive kind of throughout the dual meet.
No, I think if you look just at the disparity in takedowns, what was it, like 30, mid-30s to 3 for Wisconsin?
That bad, was it?
Yeah, it was actually that bad.
It was a couple. Gross has got a couple. Murin had 1. Lugo had 2. Caleb Young had a whole bunch. Caleb Young and Kemmer had a whole bunch.
Yeah,
okay. Maybe it was that bad.
I did see it. I did see the stats somewhere, but I'm pretty sure it was 30 from a takedown differential, 30 plus mid-30s to 3, I believe.
Jeez, I'm
for Wisconsin.
Stat. I did not think it was that bad, but oh no, you're wrong, Matt. It's 22 to 3.
22 to 3. Sorry, I had the 3 right.
Matt, you want to hear this stat? This is worse. Oh, God, this stat is bad. Holy shit. I didn't know anyone calculated this. Are you ready?
Let's hear it.
Wisconsin. So there's 10 matches, roughly 70 minutes of wrestling. Obviously, there was one pin, which happened very, very late in that one match. I guess there's a tech fall also by Spencer Lee. So we'll say 65 to 67-ish minutes. Wisconsin only held the match lead for 46 seconds the entire duel.
Wow. Yeah, I mean,
wow.
You hear different stats in different sports about keys to victory, but winning close matches and big duels, obviously that's a prerequisite. They did that. Bonus point differential, they did that. I mean, it was just across the board. It was a very complete, comprehensive performance by the Hawkeyes. Yeah, and I think you could probably, if you want to pinpoint some reasons why Wisconsin maybe look flat, because I don't know if they look flat. I think that discredits Iowa again.
I want to say Iowa's just really good. I mean, when you look at these matches, I mean, Gross DeSanto's 1-2, Marinelli Wick is 2-3. Cassiope was a little farther down, but obviously, I think a lot of people had very high expectations of him, and so we're going to see the Badgers back in really short order. They're back on Saturday. I'm actually going on Saturday. On Saturday, they're in St. Louis. They're at the Cougar Clash, a bunch of really good teams there. So we're going to get to see how they look against everyone else. And I want to say it was more Iowa being really good than Wisconsin being really bad. I mean, that's just kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah, and I think in a match like this where there's a lot of hype for the other team, right? There's a lot of hype surrounding Wisconsin, what they potentially could be this year. But I know when you're just taking over a program and you're starting to build up to the expectations, and there's a lot of key points in those duels that have to start creating momentum on your side. And I
Yeah.
thought as soon as DeSanto
Yes, that was
beat Gross, I think that just, I don't want to say it deflated Wisconsin, but
that's deflating. That was, I mean, yeah, that was
because that's the guy you're looking to, right? I mean,
yes.
if you're it. I mean, no matter how the coaches break it down, you can't lie to the athletes. They understand. They know everything. They know all the nuances to the match. So they know they need Seth Gross to win. They probably understand that they're going to give up 5 or 6 at 25 to start the match. So, going in, it's like, okay, we're going to be in a big hole after that first match. But we can counter that and establish our own momentum by our national champ coming out and looking like the number one guy in the country. When he didn't do that, it just seemed to kind of deflate the rest of the team. And it kind of steamrolled from there. The momentum was firmly on the side of Iowa, and they just kept piling on. I mean, they did not take their foot off their gas for 1 second throughout the entire duel.
Yeah, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. I mean, you and I were both in the group text with said person, and he was not the only one to text me, but do you feel Iowa has changed into, I mean, obviously the criticism of them, and I don't know that Iowa people were self-aware enough to see this in themselves, but the criticism of them for years was that they just pushed. They preached offense, but there wasn't a whole lot of offense going on, and it does it does feel different. It does. I mean, do you have that same feeling that I have, or
no? Without a doubt, we've discussed it before. I think, when Iowa talks about pushing pace, building leads, it's almost like they're forcing their opponents. They're not generating a lot of their own offense, right? Last night they did, and it looks like the lineup they have, they're going out to generate their own points. They're not forcing their opponent into a mistake. They're not forcing him into a bad shot. They're going to create their opportunities. They're going to initiate the action. I think, that's kind of what Penn State has done, right?
Yeah. Correct.
And as much as Iowa's been talking about that for several years, right? Building lead, bonus points, all this stuff that everybody's kind of talking about that at this point.
Well, it's essentially the blueprint for what Penn State has done the last decade.
But they're actually doing it. And dare I say, they're having fun doing it too, right?
Yes.
They look like
fun. I think this would be one of the first years. And you know what? I was kind of thinking about this. And I don't know where or why it changed. I don't study the Hawkeyes to know enough, but I do feel as though it's almost like a little bit of pressure has been relieved, and I don't know where that came from. When you watch, and you've been a coach for many, many years, when you watch an athlete who's under pressure, they're very, very unlikely to be relaxed, to be enjoying themselves, to be enjoying the moment, to do those things that are really optimal for peak performance. Generally, when you have someone under pressure, they're stressed. They're over worrying about things, and it generally leads to a negative performance. That's when I watched the Hawkeyes. That's kind of what I've thought about them for a while. Despite the fact that they were getting all these really big name recruits and having really good wrestlers, they just didn't perform up to snuff. Not as good as the athletes were. And with this team, it seems for whatever reason they've kicked that a little bit. And you just mentioned it there that they're kind of actually having fun and they're actually enjoying themselves. I can't pinpoint where or why that happened, but I think that is something that's happening.
Well, I would actually say it looks like each one of their guys is acting true to their character. I think in the past, we've seen a lot of Iowa teams take on the persona of what Iowa should be.
Ooh,
and what
good.
these
they're trying
what
to
these
yeah. I like
what these athletes believe that they should act like or walk around. And it just seems like when you're assuming those roles, and I don't know how I would categorize that, but they try to act like tough guys, right?
Yes.
And I think that's a form of pressure too, when you have to conform to a certain personality type.
Absolutely.
And that, I think, is self-imposed pressure when you're not being the person you really are. You're playing a part as opposed to being and acting and wrestling true to who you are. It just seems like they're going out and whatever their personality is, they wrestle to that. They act like that. They talk like that. And it's not just a unified cast of characters that is I'm a tough guy, right? Where Penn State's kind of like they've taken that, they've allowed people behind the curtain. They're like, this is what's really behind the curtain.
They don't the Kale doesn't allow you all the way behind the curtain, though. He just kind of pulls it back just a little bit, so you get a little bit of a peek. Then he closes it again.
I'm saying maybe what Penn State exposed in Iowa, that this was more of an act as opposed to this is who they truly are. And I think they've lifted and relieved that pressure. Iowa looks like they're like, hey, we're going to embrace who you are as individuals. We're going to coach you to be that best form of that person, that wrestler. And they went out and they did. They looked like they had freedom in the way that they went out to perform and to compete, which is really refreshing to see.
I agree fully. Okay, let's just run through this line. We've kind of hinted at a lot of these matches. Let's run through this. Spencer Lee, 16-0. You want to yell at everyone again for saying that they were worried in week 1?
Yeah, I mean, he looks good. Let him have it. I don't know what else to say. I mean,
you yelled at him last week because week 1, remember, people were like, "Oh, Spencer Lee didn't look that great, and he won 16-5." And last week, you're like, "See, you dummies! I told you. You need to listen to me."
Yeah, I mean, again, pump the brakes. I'm not trying to say pump the brakes on what happened last night, because I think I was looking as good as people are saying.
Yeah.
But we're still in December. We're still in December.
Patrick Glory this weekend. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think that's going to be great. I think that's going to be really exciting. And we'll see what he looks like, because I think he's definitely going to get tested.
Ranked? 4? 4 is ranked 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. Man, 25 really emptied out since last year. Like last year, I feel like it was deep, and now, I mean, I don't want to rag on any of these guys, but like Alex McCall, Brock Hudkins, Devin Schrader, I never thought of those guys as All-American caliber guys, but those are the guys that are, right. They're 6, 7, and 8 right now.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look like, and again, when you're a 2-time national champ, and I guess I get people, when you create that expectation for yourself, you should be. This is the rules of engagement. You're a 2-time national champ. People, if you don't tech fall everybody, I mean, you and I both got caught up in the hype last year, right? At a certain point, we're like, is he actually going to go 7 minutes?
Yep,
and then
absolutely.
when there was some chinks in the armor, he took a couple defeats. Even though he came back and won a national title, people are very easy to jump back onto the criticism wagon by he doesn't look untouchable, but he looks pretty darn good a month into the season.
All right. DeSanto Gross. Obviously, this was the marquee match of the duel. And really, this is 1 versus 2. Wait, time out. Is Sebastian Rivera going to stay at 133 or not?
No, he's on his descent plan.
Okay, good. Okay, that's what I thought. So, I mean, really, I guess you could throw RBY in there then. But besides that, possibly, I just see Gross and DeSanto being kind of elevated from the field, and I think we're going to see these two again at Midlands. We're going to see these two again at the Big Ten championships, and then obviously at the NCAA tournament. So we're going to see these guys wrestle. Man, I have a hard time bagging on the Wisconsin Badgers because I work with them and I really like them. But DeSanto won that match fairly easily, and it pains me to say that, but that's what happened, and I got to be honest about it. I
mean, sometimes you just got to take it, right? I mean, he got dominated. He got not dominated. He got out wrestled.
Yes.
In pretty much 2 out of the 3 positions.
Yes.
I mean, DeSanto didn't show a lot on bottom, but Gross didn't even sniff a turn on top. So you can't really. And then on his feet, I mean, the way DeSanto was getting through his finishes, I've never seen a guy get through finishes that quickly on Gross.
I mean, we just watched Seth Gross wrestle 3 NCAA champions in a row.
Yeah, so there's, I mean, for for me looking at it, there's a lot to unpack here. Number one, it looked to me like, man, if I don't know what the plan is for Seth Gross moving forward through the rest of the season, but if I'm Chris Bono and staff, I'm like, we're going all in on the college season.
Listen, I picture, I go in there and I help with technique and I help with stuff, but I don't make decisions for them. I'm not involved in their decisions. But the Olympic trials is literally 2 weeks after the NCAA tournament. So I feel like for Seth Gross, he really has to make a decision. Be a suboptimal size, right? Be less than you could be, a suboptimal size for 133 and go on Olympic trials, or pass on the Olympic trials and be the proper size for 133. Because I think the proper size for 133 and the proper size for 57 kilograms, they're not the same size. Is that fair?
I mean, I totally agree. I think he's in an extremely difficult situation. By balancing both of these goals and objectives, he could actually not reach either one of them. If he's trying to satisfy both parties, win an NCAA title, make the Olympic team, especially with, I mean, you could tell this guy is suffering to make 57 kgs. He could do it, but he's doing that. It looks like he is even smaller at 133. Like he's still maintaining his weight at a certain size.
For those people who aren't weight cutting experts, you can't literally shrink your body in 2 weeks, right? So there's 2 weeks between the NCAA tournament and the Olympic trials. You can't shrink your body. At that point, the only thing you can do is cut water weight out. And so if Seth
it seems to me, go ahead.
Seth is at a larger weight, he just can't make 57 kilograms. He can't make it. Right? So in order to be able to make 57 kilograms, his body needs to shrink down. So he's at a size that's significantly lesser than he would need to be for just regular wrestling, 133, nothing else involved.
Yeah, I mean, it looks to me, and you would know better, and I don't want you to talk out of turn if you can't, but it almost looked to me like he's pretty much walking around at 133. He can't be cutting much to get to 33.
Yeah, I know he was walking around a few pounds above that, a couple pounds above that to be good to make 57 kg, which he did for the Bill Farrell. Now that he's qualified, and again, I don't have these type of discussions with them. I go in and show my technique. If they ask me for something, I give my opinion where it's asked, but I'm not trying to step on toes. I figured he'd probably gain a few pounds because he does have, right now it's 3.5 months, close to 4 months till the Olympic trials. So you could gain a little weight back for the middle of the season and then start cutting yourself down again as it comes to NCAAs. But then the point is, then again, you're cutting yourself down as it comes to NCAAs, which is, that's dangerous because obviously you don't really care about, obviously you care about winning matches in the middle of the season, but you would sacrifice those to be good at the end of the year. And in this case, you don't really have a choice because the Olympic trials is April 4th. There's nothing he can do about that. That's the date.
I guess maybe on the flip side of this is maybe we give him another couple months of continuing to make weight and continue to acclimate. And the more his body, because his body shrunk.
Yes.
His body is smaller. It just doesn't look like he's totally acclimated to the weight. And maybe if he gets another 10 weigh-ins underneath his belt, walking around at whatever you said, 36, 37,
somewhere on there,
that he becomes more and more comfortable just operating at a smaller size, walking around at a certain size. And maybe he's got to adapt his wrestling style just slightly in certain areas. Because last night he had 2 great leg attacks at the beginning of the match and was fighting like a dog to get him. DeSanto fought them off. And after he defended that second leg attack, it almost looked like Gross was like, my feet are in quicksand.
Took some steam, for sure.
Yeah, I'm in deep waters here. I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
And it definitely looked that way as far as how easily DeSanto was able to convert his scores. And that's the one thing we've never really seen with Seth Gross in a very long time.
Yeah. And we talked about it 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago with the Farrell. We talked about how effective he was both offensively and defensively. I don't know. I don't pry too much with the, I go in to do my job. I don't pry a whole bunch. So I guess we'll see how he looks moving forward. Hopefully they're going to match up again in 3.5, 4 weeks in Midlands.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to get to see a replay of this thing and see how it plays out. Okay, let's
No, hold on. On the flip side of that, I do want to. Hey, let's give Austin DeSanto a lot of credit. This guy has evolved quite a bit in the last year and a half in Iowa's program.
Yeah.
I mean, I think on all levels, Ben. I think technically he's better.
He didn't act like a spaz yesterday. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, emotionally, he looked
Yes.
more centered and more balanced.
I would say it's fair.
I think, he's obviously making a more concerted effort. And this is not just this year. We saw it last year, but he's making a more concerted effort to ride guys on top.
Okay.
I think you could probably say last night, oh, he didn't do anything on bottom. Well, he didn't really have to do much on bottom, number one. And number two, why expose yourself? Why be overly aggressive on bottom when this guy is arguably the most dangerous guy on top in the country? Why do that? Force Gross to open you up.
Yes.
Don't open yourself up. So I just think he's developed. I mean, just the way he controlled action. He didn't really, outside of the first minute of the match, he didn't really let Gross get into his 2-on-1 at all. So he knew how to execute his game plan. He went out and executed it. He continued to gain steam, and man, I mean, a lot can change, and I think a lot will change over the next 4 months. But based upon what we saw last night, this guy is definitely, I mean, he's a title contender. I mean, that's probably an understatement.
I mean, I would say that's an understatement. I think it's well established. Yeah, you know what, and I agree with you. I am actually very critical, and I think you've been critical too of saying Iowa doesn't develop guys, but I think one guy that they have developed very well and played to his strengths is Austin DeSanto, because he has made some jumps. Obviously he showed glimpses his freshman year at Drexel, but he has made significant jumps since being at Iowa in the last year and a half.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's go Moran. Man, this was damn near the same match as first round of NCAAs. Same exact final score. Similar match to that. Murin beats Tristan 3-2. It's one takedown match. These guys are ranked number 9 and 10 in the country. Both these guys are guys who could potentially sneak into the All-American round, but they could also maybe slide a little further. Obviously one that I was hoping that Wisconsin would get, and they didn't get. And so that was like, when they lose the Gross match, it's like, oh crap, that sucks. And then when they lose this one, it's like, oh, that's you could be winning, say 6-5 after this match, and instead of it's 11-0, that was really rough.
I mean, I guess that's kind of the tale of the dual meet is there weren't just when you're Wisconsin looking at this dual meet, there weren't a lot of matches, and obviously the outcome, speaks to this, but there weren't a lot of obvious wins for Wisconsin up and down. If the wins were gonna,
I think there were 0 obvious wins.
Yeah, and I think of the potential ones, like at 33 and 41, like, dang man, like we got to make this happen. We just have to make this happen. Like it's got to be a dogfight. We just have to two equally partnered opponents. You got to find a way to be that guy to win. And I think this speaks to Wisconsin's culture or Iowa's culture, that they know how to win these tight matches. And I think there's a cultural aspect of this, as opposed to Wisconsin is still growing their culture, learning how to win these tight matches, learning how to perform in these big time situations. And, that you've got to learn how to tip those scales to your favor, that all those 1-point matches, all those one takedown matches go your way. And none of them did. And this is just 141 was a classic case of the entire duel.
Yes, I agree. Okay, 49-57. I don't know, that we need to discuss these too much. 65, another huge one. 2 versus 3. Obviously, historically, Wick got the better of. He tech faulted Alex Marinelli 2 years ago at the NCAA championships, and then last year felt a lot like this match. He lost 3 matches. all of which were ridiculously close. This one was another one right down that path. Evan Wick has to figure out how to get the takedown. Once he gets on top, he generally stays on top. He needs to figure out how to go get the takedown. He wasn't able to get one last night. He got 2 escapes to Alex Marinelli's two takedowns. So another one where, I'm kind of sad today because obviously I wanted the Badgers to perform much better. And it was a really, really, really rough duel.
Yeah, I mean, with Wick, this wasn't really a close 4-2 match for the most part. I mean, it was pretty much controlled.
Matt, come on. How long was left when he got the last takedown?
Yeah, but did Wick...
It was 2-2, in all fairness.
A takedown and 2 escapes.
Yeah.
A takedown and 2 escapes. I mean, I love Wick, and I think he's great, but this was not a close match. He didn't come close to scoring. I'm just telling you, I'm just calling it like I see it. There wasn't really, outside of probably a 30-second span in the third period where Wick really increased his pace on his feet, increased his hand fighting. But I don't really know if that's the plan of attack to open up Marinelli. I think that actually opens up more opportunities for Marinelli. So I don't know what the strategy is there with Wick. You're around him much more. You're in the room fairly often with him. Like what there's got to be a change. There's got to be a new attack plan, because the last 4 matches
have been all really, really similar.
Very similar. So at a certain point, you're almost like, hey, I would rather get beat by 10 points as opposed to getting by 2 points. I would rather get beat badly, trying new things, and see if I can find new chinks in the armor by getting getting beat, as opposed to losing the same way time after time after time.
Yeah, I mean, that's
because if you're Marinelli, you got to be feeling pretty good moving forward. Like, yeah, I know how to wrestle this match. I know how to execute. I know where I need to be every single second. I know where I can't be. I'm not going to even allow that to be a possibility. And he's kind of executed that the last 4 times to a T.
Unfortunately. Damn it. Okay, last big one. Well, Giant Sebastian got a win, which saved us. And I guess the only relevance to that is that it prevented the shutout, which was nice. And I think that means Cash Wilkie's fired, and it's Nelson Brand's job the rest of the year. What do you think?
I think so.
You think so?
I mean, I don't think the door's completely shut. Just because, Brands is undersized. Wilkie is what he is. But yeah, I think for the foreseeable future, I think Nelson Brands
has a really good win at performance at Midlands. I think would be the only.
Yeah, I mean, I would say let's table the discussion until after Midlands. I would anticipate both those guys are going to be in the tournament at 184.
Yeah,
which is going to be a large determining factor. But I think for all intents and purposes, because if you look at Sebastian, and I know he's been dinged up for the majority of his career. I think he's had 4 or 5 shoulder surgeries. So I don't want to. He's had some good wins, but
Caleb Young, for example.
Yes, but in matches like that, typically throughout his career, I don't know if there's been a lot of sudden death matches where Sebastian has dug deep and gotten that takedown. And again, that's where Iowa thrives, right? That's where they've made their money historically in those pressure situations in overtime. And to lose that in your home gym, I think it just opens the door. I think Iowa's probably looking for a reason or hoping for a reason for this outcome. Yeah. The outcome happened. I think they just usher in Nelson Brands from here on out. But I don't think it's the end of the discussion, but I think for the foreseeable future, it is.
Yeah. Okay. Last one, heavyweight. Obviously, this was really disappointing. So we closed out on a win. Cassiope's number 12, but again, had people have very, very high hopes of him. Hilger was as high as number 2 because he just beat Tate Orndorff, who had beaten Hall, and who else did he beat? Hall beat Hall, and so he beat someone else. Maybe Matt Stencil. Maybe that's who he beat earlier. Hilger beats him. Again, 1 takedown match, 3-2. It feels like there was way too many 1 takedown matches, or 1 and 2 point losses that Wisconsin took in this duel.
I mean, for me, Ben, and I think this might be a big statement.
Uh-oh.
This was the most, for me, this was the most impressive win by Iowa on the night. I mean,
really more than DeSanto? I mean, do you remember what Gross did 2 weeks ago at the NYC? I see. I kind of see what you're saying because, the Cassiopei's number 12, not number 2 like DeSanto was. But at the same time, I mean, Seth Gross looked so good just 2 weeks ago at the NYC, or it's not the NYC. What's the damn name of the tournament, Matt?
Bill Farrell.
Bill Farrell, thank you. I guess I don't totally disagree. Part of me disagrees with you.
No, and I get it. And I guess why I would say that is, one, DeSanto is proven. He's been on the podium. He's placed already. He's ranked number 2. So he's got a proven track record. He's done some tangible things that we can point to that are outside of just a ranking. He's got some tangible things that he's produced. Being an All-American, I don't think this is what Seth Gross's, was this his first folk style match in over a year?
Seth Gross?
Yeah.
No, he wrestled.
He wrestled a week ago.
Last weekend, he beat the Buffalo. What's the Buffalo kid ranked? Buffalo kid's ranked like 12.
Derek Span ranked like 12, 11, 12. Yeah.
No, he had a few. Obviously Lamont's fairly highly ranked right now. So and he killed him. Lamont was not. Lamont's at number 9. And that match wasn't close. I mean, it was 11-3. It was super dominant by Seth, and So I think this is for me.
Maybe
that was maybe. But I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, maybe for me it's more of a victim of in ranking influence. Cassiopei's a redshirt freshman. Hilger's just a sophomore, even though he's an All-American. But man, I was really impressed because I guess it speaks to my feelings towards Hilger, because I think he's up there, one of the top 4 heavyweights, and to kind of get controlled by Cassiopei the way he did. I mean, it was again, this is a 3-2 match, but it was pretty much controlled by and large by Cassiopei. I mean, he just showed a lot to me. Cassiopei did.
Yeah.
In every area. I mean, and Cassiopei, take this the right way. Sam Stoll, take this the right way. But in a way, his body type I thought was similar to Sam Stoll. But when I looked at him, like, he's a big dude, but underneath his mass, I mean, he's jacked up, man.
I thought you were going to say he's way more athletic than Sam Stoll, because I feel as though
he is. He's definitely way more.
He's way more athletic.
Yeah, I mean, body types are similar. Athletic ability or skill.
A couple inches taller, but I mean, they're both very, very large people. I feel like Cassiopei is significantly more athletic than Sam Stoll, and probably has a little bit more of a diverse array of attacks than Sam Stoll did. I mean, Sam Stoll, for my opinion, was really heavily reliant on pushing and underhook, overhook type stuff to score his point, whereas Cassiopei has a few different ways to attack you, and also is pretty good on top. Which obviously didn't play in this match, but it is.
I look at his frame, and I look about how he's going to mature. And that was actually a comment my wife and I made, or my wife made, about Hilger, like how his body has transformed in the span of a year. And I'm like,
really? He looks different. How does she think he looks different? Bigger?
No, not bigger. She's like, he looks just more mature, more fleshed out.
Sure.
Right.
Sure. Yeah.
And, he's just maturing into his body.
Yeah.
He doesn't look bigger. He just looks more mature this year.
Yeah.
And I look at Cassiopei and I see similar things, like, wow, this guy is going to be a load in a couple of years. He's already a big boy and he moves really well, but I think this is a guy, I don't want to jump the gun and say we should add him into the mix of contenders, but I think he could be.
When you beat the number 2 guy in the country, or obviously number 2, number 3, where Hilger was ranked, you add yourself into that conversation really fast. And I think Midlands will tell us more, because Midlands is going to have, I believe, I'm just historically speaking, Midlands will have Cassiopei will obviously be there. Hilger will be there. I believe Michigan usually goes in Mason Paris. I believe that Matt Stenzel goes. That's number 6 ranked guy. So you're going to have essentially 4 of the top 8 there at the Midlands. Where the hell is Gable Stevenson?
Is he even back on the roster? I haven't heard anything.
Let me look at the roster real quick. Yeah, how are they keeping this so quiet? No one's talking about it at all. It's kind of wild. Okay, I'm looking at the roster, man.
I think he's on the roster now.
Let me see. Bobby Gable Stevenson is on the Minnesota roster as of today, Monday, December 2nd. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if they have maybe I don't know. Given what's happened with Minnesota's program in the last couple of years, and the situation, whatever the situation is with Gable Stevenson,
yeah,
maybe they're just gonna punt it and he's gonna stay in Olympic red shirt.
That'd be interesting. Yeah, I mean the only thing I would say there is that, dude, the NCAAs are in your hometown. You're gonna miss. That's the NCAAs you're gonna miss. That kind of stinks. That's the only angle I'm thinking. But yeah, obviously I get it. Okay, hey Matt, I want to talk about a new segment. This is something new that we're doing. I don't know that it'll be updated weekly. I know you guys are going to put it on your website somewhere and on your social media. I am doing a Hodge Trophy rankings.
Okay. Yeah, I'm interested to hear your criteria and the breakdown.
My theory and my breakdown and why I have who I have, where they're at. And like I said, I don't know that I should do them every week because I don't think there's going to be a gigantic amount of change, but maybe bi-weekly or obviously definitely after the scuffle Midlands. So, okay. So when I made this list, here's what I'm thinking. Number one, I'm thinking you have to be undefeated to be on this list. The only way, there's been one time a non-undefeated person has won this award. It was Brent Metcalf. And there was only one undefeated wrestler in the NCAAs that year, which was Keith Gavin. I thought Keith was robbed. Because actually, Win Magazine lists, getting pins as one of the dominance criteria for winning the Hodge Trophy. So therefore, when Brett Metcalf got pinned, I don't care if you want to call it a lucky pin or not. When you got pinned, that's one of the dominance categories. So that should go down as a really bad loss. And they kind of like just brushed it aside and they gave Keith Gavin the win. So when I look at the categories, number one, you have to be undefeated. So someone like Seth Gross, obviously he would make my top 10 pound for pound. But due to the fact that he has a loss, I think he's off the list. The other thing I didn't do on here, and this is something that some people do when they make their Hodge Trophy list, I didn't necessarily take into account the possibility of them losing in the future. So, for example, Austin DeSanto is really high on this list. Obviously, he's got to beat Seth Gross three times in a row more if he's going to win this award. Is that all that likely? I don't know. But this list is, as of today, who I think is the best. So I looked at, are they undefeated? How dominant are they? And how likely are they to continue to score bonus points? That's kind of where my head was at. Because in order to win the Hodge Trophy, you're going to have to be undefeated. You're going to have a gigantic amount of bonus points, as we've seen in the last 5, 6, 7, 8 winners. They're all very undefeated. They all have a huge amount of bonus points. I think the only one who would go in that category of non is Kyle Dake, and that was 4 in a row. Plus, he beat David Taylor 3 times. Is that fair?
Fair.
Okay,
yeah.
So let's go through my list real quick here. I'm gonna go 10-1. Oh, sorry, I'm pulling it up. I just.
And are these your rankings? Are these your top 10 in numerical order, or just
today.
Okay?
Correct. 10-1. And again, even this, I would probably, if you said who actually has a realistic chance of winning this, I'd probably make it a little bit of a smaller list. Like when I look at 1 through 5, the chance, if I had to make betting odds, the chances that someone who's number 1 through 5 right now is going to win this award, in my opinion, is like a 10-1, right? Like someone outside the top 5 winning the Hodge Award, I think that's so highly unlikely that I almost don't even consider it. So nevertheless,
and I don't think the first week of December is to pare down the list to your top 4 or 5. I think it's much more interesting if we can have a conversation who drops off the list next from here, and you can gradually pare it down as opposed to.
Because again, Matt, you're not getting the award. Not everybody in the NCAA is going to lose. So once you have one loss, you're essentially, in my mind, you're eliminated. So,
Right.
I mean, yeah, who knows? Maybe I'll start making this list less than 10 people, because the fact that, obviously there are 10 undefeateds right now. But I think that number, really important undefeateds, right? You might have a guy sneak, he starts the season late and he doesn't have a lot of high ranked matches. Maybe sneaks in undefeated somewhere, but you're not going to have a lot of those undefeated guys. So let's go. Number 10, Alex Marinelli. Obviously had a big win over Evan Wick last night. He does a decent amount of bonus pointing, not a huge amount. I think the chances he's going to get the award are fairly slim, but I would put he was my number 10. So I'm gonna go through these first 5 fairly fast. Hayden Hidlay, he another guy who I think has a decent chance of going undefeated, but the weight class is not all that difficult, and he's a decent bonus scorer, not a huge amount. Number 8 is Nick Lee, a guy I believe he's been 5th and 5th at NCAAs, or else, I probably honestly would have moved Nick Lee a lot higher, because I'm not counting the fact that I think there's a decent possibility he can lose. But the thing you can guarantee about Nick Lee, will score a gigantic amount of bonus points. I think that's a pretty fair statement. But I do think there's a chance he's going to lose, so we'll probably be crossing him off the list before too long. Number 7, Vincenzo Joseph. I think there's actually a good chance Vincenzo goes undefeated, but again, not a huge bonus score. All right, how do you feel about 10 through 7?
I feel pretty good.
Okay.
It's interesting. I think Joseph scores more bonus points than we think.
You think so?
I think it's just there's been such a gap. When you look at these guys outside of the number 1 guy, who's the obvious one, and I don't want to give this away, but outside of your number 1 guy, it's been amazing how the proliferation of bonus point wrestlers, dominant bonus point wrestlers over the last 6 or 8 years. This year we don't necessarily have that. So this Hodge race might, it's going to look a lot different. Yeah.
Seth Gross is not on my list, and Seth Gross is a guy who scored a gigantic amount of bonus points, but now he's got the 1 loss. So essentially, unless everybody else loses, he's off the list. And so, that's a big bonus point score. Okay, number 6 would be the actual, and obviously he's ranked number 6 for a reason. He's the guy outside the top 5 would say, man, if the best version of this guy shows up every single day, I could see it. There's a possibility if somehow everybody else loses, and that's Colin Moore. Colin Moore on some days looks like a world beater. He scores a pretty high amount of bonus points, but I don't move him up higher because, well, I've seen a pretty bad Colin Moore show up sometimes, and I don't know what I'm going to get every single day of the year. So that's probably, obviously he's number 6 for a reason, but that's the guy who outside of my top 5, I'm like, well, yeah, I could see this guy getting it done. Number 5, we have Zahid Valencia. If it wasn't for the 8-7 match against Taylor Venz, which I think kind of counts negatively against him, especially watching how bad Taylor Venz got beat by Taylor Lujan. That is kind of a black mark in my mind. I think Zahid probably would have, if you would ask me this list, say before that match, I think Zahid would have been number 1, 2, or 3 for sure. Number 4, Mark Hall. Again, I think fairly likely that he goes undefeated, but not a gigantic bonus score. At some points, he does rack up bonus points. Other times, we don't see it. So, he's a guy who could sneak up the list. Number 3, oh, man, Austin DeSanto. Again, he's going to score a gigantic amount of bonus points. I don't know that there's a huge chance he stays undefeated because he's got Seth Gross 3 more times. I think that Seth Gross, winning all 3 of those is a possibility. But if you told me Seth Gross is going to lose all 3 of them, man, I find that is like really, 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 really hard for me to believe. So he is number 3 because he has the propensity to score bonus points, but I think we'll probably be crossing him off the list at some point. All right, when I look at this list, Matt, when I say, I said, if you go 1 through 5, who's the chance of winning? If you said, give me just these 2 people on gambling odds, I would put the odds that one of these 2 guys wins it pretty high up on the list. And so number 2 is Anthony Gassar, number 1 is Spencer Lee. Both of which who I think have a pretty good likelihood of going undefeated, both of which who score a really high amount of bonus points, and both of which who are returning national champions. So I think those are our 1s and 2s for me. I think it's pretty clear cut for them. And I think it's going to be fun watching this Hodge race because, yeah, we don't have, to your point, we don't have the front runners that we've had historically.
Yeah, I would say I think your list is great. I think at right now, I would say, especially what we talked about with the depth or lack thereof at 125.
Yeah.
Conversely, the depth at heavyweight and the quality depth at heavyweight, especially inside the Big Ten, I think the odds are, if I had to say firmly in Spencer Lee's, I think this is firmly within his grasp at this time of the year.
Yeah, and the only thing that makes me say Spencer's not a runaway favorite is he did lose to Sebastian Rivera twice last year. He lost to Nick Piccinini. So, like, if obviously if those losses hadn't happened, well, I think there's a chance he would have won it last year if those losses didn't happen. But if you say those two aren't really a threat to him, Spencer Lee's going to be the highest percentage bonuser this year. Like, if you wanted to bet me on that one, who's going to have the highest percentage bonus? I'm going to give Spencer Lee like 5-1 odds on this.
No, for sure.
Like, no one's going to have a higher percentage of bonus point wins than Spencer Lee is this year. It's just not going to happen. No one is as good as bonus pointing as Spencer Lee. So for me, it's just, I think he's number one, but is he going to stay undefeated? Because Rivera's got wins over him. Piccinini's got wins over him. And could I see those guys beating him again? I think the answer to that is absolutely.
And this is something we talked about a couple of weeks ago with the Hodge race and with Spencer Lee. And when I was defending him, when people were talking about how bad he looked, I'm like, hey, I know for you, and you could talk more about it, but your goals were not only to win an NCAA title, you wanted to win the Hodge Trophy as well.
Absolutely.
That was a priority. That was a list on your wall, like NCAA title, Hodge Trophy.
Absolutely.
I don't know if that's necessarily on Spencer Lee's list, right?
Really?
It could.
We should ask him.
We should ask him.
I interviewed him, and I didn't ask him that question. That's like journalistic malpractice on my part.
Yeah, because we've talked to other guys, and I've coached other guys where this was an ongoing discussion during the years. Like, okay, where do you think I'm sitting in the Hodge race? What do I need to do?
I'm gonna text him right now, Matt, and see if it's on his goals list.
Yeah, because if it's not, that's where I could see this opens the door. But maybe we were talking about this a few episodes ago. Like, okay, he's already won 2. And as the more you accumulate titles, the more you have to challenge yourself, right? And you have to set the benchmark a little higher, right?
Live texting. What if we get a live answer while we're on the show?
That would be awesome.
We don't have very much time left. I probably should have texted him this in the beginning of the show for us to guarantee we get an answer by the end of the show. So
all I'm saying is, like, I don't know what's on his goal list or how big of a goal is it,
right.
or all he may only care about winning NCAA titles.
Yeah, maybe that's it. And obviously, not only NCAA titles, Matt, but if Spencer Lee is able to help Iowa bring home a team title, that'll be their first one in a decade. Spencer Lee will be like a effing hero in Iowa City.
And if you look, what's impressive to me, and this is, probably a direct correlation to the team race. In the previous 5 years, I believe Penn State has had guys either win or they've had multiple guys within the top 4 in the Hodge race.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, for sure. No doubt.
And based upon your rankings, you have Lee at 1, DeSanto at 3.
Oh, I have 4 Penn State guys and 3 Hawkeyes.
Right. So, this could factor in. I think there's a direct correlation between who's in the Hodge race and the carryover effect.
Oh, yeah.
And the tipping point it could determine in the team race.
Because you got to think, if you're a Hodge contender, if you're on this list, you're probably likely gonna get bonus in your first 2 matches at NCAAs, maybe your third one. Obviously, bonusing in the fourth, the semis and finals is significantly more difficult. But that even if say you just bonus your first 3 rounds, we'll say between majors and pins, that's 4.5 points. If you have 2 or 3 guys that do that, that's 13.5 points to 18 points. That's a first place finish right there.
I don't want to nitpick on your ranking here, but the one guy I might include in this list based upon how he's looked so far would be Kemmer at 174.
Ooh, but
I think that's a guy to keep an eye at.
He's got a lot of bonus. He has ability to put up a lot of bonus points. You're right. Yeah, I could see his inclusion. Maybe we kick him out. We can kick Marinelli out and put him in at number 10 if you want.
No, I mean we'll have to see, but I mean he's looked really, really impressive so far.
Yeah,
but I think
right on that.
And I think that's another thing about this. However we want to describe it, the new personality of Iowa wrestling, like that would put four guys for Iowa in the top 10.
Yep.
And how many times have they had even multiple guys in the top 10 of the Hodge race? Yeah. I mean, it's been a long, long time.
Long time. All right, Matt, let's put those Hodge rankings up this week. That was a lot of fun for me to do and look through. And that's all we got. So, Matt, when we come back next time, let's do a preview of the CKLV. And let's also, we're going to discuss the NCAA dual versus team thing. So that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, cool.
All right.
Talk to you later.